Good morning. I'd like to ask the panelists for the session to come out. We'll show you their pictures so you recognize them and their positions. Up in the left corner is me, and in the center we have Hazel Kay, Global Marketing Director of Virtu. We have, at the far right, Elliot Pollack, CEO Textappeal. Right next to Elliot is Michael Mazinski, the CEO of London Advertising. And on the left in the picture and in the center of the table is Khaled Ismail, who's Global Brand Director for Tetra Pak. And finally, last but not least, next to Hazel is Sadar Khan, Manager Group Advertising for Emirates Airlines. The subject of this session is called Building Megabrands at Digital Speed. We're not talking about digital advertising per se. We're talking about the power and the speed of the modern connected world as it can be applied now to the whole process of advertising. And we're talking about a fresh new concept. It's so fresh that some of it is still forming, but clearly it's a trend that's moving very fast. And so, the major brands of the last century, in many cases, took decades, up to 70 years to develop and fully mature. But now, 7 is the new 70. In the last, since the millennium change, we've had Google arrive, we've had Twitter arrive, we've had LinkedIn, we've had Facebook, more or less since the turn of the millennium. And some pretty big brands, one of which I was associated with, PlayStation, and now the Nintendo Wii. Global brands emerging and crystallizing in a matter of months sometimes, certainly just a few years. So the whole process of advertising and capturing this, harnessing this power is at hand. And so we've been thinking, the team here has been thinking about new ways to address this. So without further ado, we have 4 or 5 people speaking. We want to move right along. Starting at the beginning here is Hazel, who is going to talk to you about the process of building a mega brand from Virtu, the high-end telephone. So Hazel, she's going to speak from the table.
Good morning. You can all hear me okay? I thought I'd start just by explaining a little bit about Virtu, because not necessarily everybody will know who we are. Virtu began with our chief designer, Frank Nuovo, sitting by a swimming pool about 10 years ago. And he was doing a bit of work. He was using his luxury pen, checking his luxury watch to see what time of day it was, and then he picked up his plastic mobile phone. And he realized that in today's civilized world and today's emerging world as well, we have luxury everything, but the one thing where there isn't a luxury version is the mobile phone. He was the chief designer at Nokia at the time, so obviously it was a great opportunity to take the idea to Nokia, and from that moment on the vision was created to create the world's first luxury mobile phone. He then pulled together the team of experts, craftsmen, engineers, designers from around the world to really set this vision forward. We built a factory which took 2 years, where we would hand make every single phone. That's where we are based today. And it took 2 years for the first phone to actually be made and to appear on the market. So that was back in 2002. Obviously, 7 years further on, we're quite established. We've been growing very rapidly, so it's a good case study, I think, for an emerging, very quick-growing brand. The last 3 or 4 years, up until September last year, we were growing very rapidly, double-digit growth, opening new stores, to the point where we're now in 600 points of sale around the world. We have 20 of our own stores in different luxury cities around the world, both in the emerging market and obviously the established world. And we have another 50 partner stores. So we grew very quickly. It was very exciting. From an organisation, creative, and how we manage our brand point of view, because we grew so rapidly, actually one of the things that we encountered was a little lack of control. So We had a creative centre in London. We always used a London agency to create our communications. But we also had marketing representatives in the key regions who were given some flexibility to create their own materials as well. Whilst this was great because it meant things happened quickly, it got to the point where, probably about a year ago when I joined, we realised that we had lost a little bit of control of the brand. So what we're now doing in terms of organisation is having a very strong creative centre in London. The digital speed of making things happen is very important for us because obviously we can create stuff one week and then the next week it can be out in all of the different stores or magazines around the world looking exactly the same. So our key objective currently is consistency, excellence in execution, making sure that every single piece of our brand communications totally supports the brand proposition of Virtu. So it's absolutely critical that we have these very speedy links between all the markets.